Good afternoon, everyone, and we've got another managerial change to talk about. Unai Emery is out, and Freddie Ljungberg is in temporary charge at the moment. Now, obviously, the index is popping now, but Arsenal players all over the shop in anticipation of a new manager coming in and and getting some form back, basically, into the side. Now, I think, and don't get me wrong, you can dive into Arsenal players and probably make some good money on them now. You know, especially, it depends on who you believe the next manager is going to be and what sort of football they're going to play, okay? Now, personally, what I think is going to happen, of course, is I think Ljungberg is going to get longer than what most Arsenal fans would probably want to see him actually do the job for. But I don't think Arsenal will run the risk of, you know, really falling off the cliff, you know, because the position they're in the league is very tenuous now. Europa League is on a knife edge, really, after the loss last night, and I think they're going to want to get a big name in. Now, the three names that are really getting bandied about the most, okay, we'll go through them one at a time, okay? So the first one is Ancelotti, is the one that I heard quite a lot on the radio and I'm seeing on Twitter and stuff like that as well, because of all the disputes with Napoli, the president, this, that and the other. And I think it's got a relative chance of coming off. You know, Ancelotti likes London. He's not really getting any, even though he's been Chelsea manager before, he's not as if he was a die-hard Chelsea manager. He's one of these managers that comes in and adopts the culture and, oh, that's the only team for me in that country kind of thing. And you can see that even his career in Italy. You know, Italians are weird that way, you know, like they might be like a staunch AC Milan diehard, but they'll still play for Inter Milan and Juventus and Fiorentina and Roma, and, you know, so Italy's a bit weird that way. So Ancelotti, if he was to come in, now you might look at the Arsenal team and think, right, if Ancelotti came in, he might play a bit more Torreira, he might do a wee bit more this, Tierney might play, he might do this and that, whatever. The way I prefer to look at these situations is, if Ancelotti came in, who is he likely to bring with him? You know, who's he likely to sign? Now, obviously we had a great example of Sarri bringing Jorginho straight from Napoli to Chelsea when that kind of happened, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ancelotti was offered the position and took it, he wouldn't try and do something similar. And I think the top name that would come out of Napoli, FC Dallas. That's weird. Oh, okay. So we can search by club now. That's a new one on me. Would be Allen, the Brazilian defensive midfielder. Okay, so Allen at the moment is trading at 48 pence. He's a destroyer CM. Does contribute with goals and assists because he is encouraged to go box to box. And his price now 48 pence. All you need is Ancelotti, you know, even to become closer to happening. Then you might see his price move a bit more. And then if he does get the job, you know, that name will be linked, of course, along with another old favourite of mine, and that's Zielinski. Okay, so if Zielinski is a player that I would recommend getting on at some point in the near future anyway. Just if you think about all the attention Lewandowski's having with the form he's in, obviously a big part of that is the Euros to come, but if Napoli qualify through the group, Zielinski has got the Euros to come as well, and he will be in line for a summer transfer. He's been at Napoli long enough now, and if he has a good Euros, his World Cup performances were subpar. I held him for the World Cup, he didn't really do much, to be honest, but he's somebody who's had Premier League links in the past, especially to Liverpool, and he's been a mainstay in that Napoli team. You know, he can play anywhere across the middle four, right mid, left mid, centre mid, attacking mid, CDM. So again, if Ancelotti came in, these are the two players that if I was an Arsenal fan, which I'm not, I would be wanting and expecting a midfielder like that to come in, because we all know that's the main problem with Arsenal, isn't it? The next name that's getting bandied about is Max Allegri. Okay, now if Allegri was to come in, or if you think that is likely to happen, the two players I'll be looking at, the first one is a name that's been linked to Arsenal already, and that's Daniele Rugani. Highly thought of centre-back in Italy, not getting utilised enough at Juventus. Allegri's the one that gave him his debut, brought him in, and he might not want to go at Arsenal right now, Rugani, but if Allegri got the job and Allegri phones him up and says, listen, Daniele, come to Arsenal, play in the Premier League with me, you'll play every week, you know, you'll run the team, you'll get an Italy national team, all that kind of thing, then I could see him being quite easily convinced. And if you look at his last 3 months of movement, he's been fairly stable, fairly solid, you know, so the guy's probably in line for a transfer in the relative future anyway. You know, whether he stays in Italy or he moves abroad is another matter. What kind of club does he go to? But he is somebody who does carry pedigree, you know, and somebody who will go to a decent enough team. You know, he's not going to go to like a bottom end team in any of the top 5 leagues. He's somebody who'll probably go to a mid to upper team depending on managerial situations and the exact club in question. The second one, this is going to be a bit left field, okay, is Stefano Sturaro. Okay, now again, Max Allegri brought this guy through, and I know as a friend of a friend, an Italian Juventus fan, like a proper Juve fan, and Stefano Sturaro was seen as the heir to Marchisio's throne. It's not really worked out for him since Allegri left, and everything else, and he's been at Genoa. But again, I could see this guy, again, I could see Allegri coming in and, that's what you find with some managers is they'll pick up players that they know they've had experience of, that they can probably pick up for a bit of a snip and integrate into that team, So at 32 pence, if Allegri was to get in, how likely this transfer is really up for you to decide, but I would not, if this is something that could come out of left field quite easily if Allegri was to get an Arsenal job, because the midfield needs strengthening, and the one-time heir to the Marchisio throne is the sort of player that Arsenal would probably be fairly interested in, and getting him out of Genoa is not going to be terribly expensive. It's not as if he's coming from a top-end club or whatever. The next potential managerial appointment would be, of course, Patrick Vieira. Okay, now the first player that's going to come to your mind if you're thinking about Vieira leaving Nice and going to Arsenal is Willian Cyprien. Okay, now again, this is exactly the sort of midfielder Arsenal need, a midfield controller who's going to win tackles, get on the ball, circulate play, and will go box to box. And if Vieira comes in, this guy's price will pop because he'll be the first player linked 110%, and you probably notice a theme. It's midfielders is what Arsenal are going to need, and that's why I don't think Ljungberg is going to get too much time at Arsenal regardless of results, because Arsenal will either have scouting departments already in the mix for getting new players in the January window, or they're going to want somebody to come in with fresh ideas and go, I want him and him, go and get them. I don't know how much faith they're putting in their scouting department these days, because a lot of their transfers haven't really panned out too well. Really at the back end of the Wenger regime, and then obviously through Unai Emery this year, like Denis Suarez last year, Ceballos, I know he's injured, but these are loan players, they need concrete, permanent signings that are going to revamp the team and push them on and take them on to the next era of the club's history. And then if you think of Nice, the next person that's going to come to your mind, of course, is Yusuf Attal, okay, who is not in the top 200. Am I spelling him wrong? He's not in the top 200. He's still over a pound, of course, yeah. So Yusuf Attal, as we know, is a tidy attacking player now. I know they've just signed Tierney. I know Bellerin's back from injury. They've got Pepe. If you're thinking about Attal, he's played a bit more forward this season. But this is an Arsenal signing, just because they've got strength in those areas doesn't mean they'll go and get a better calibre player in that area. And if Vieira was to come from Nice, I can promise you one of the first things he'll say will be, I want, these types of players to come to the club and back me in the transfer window. Out of those three candidates, I see Vieira as being, in my mind, the favourite and the most likely. Now, the counter argument to that will be Nice have got the richest guy in Britain, owns them, they've got a big project, whatever. But if you listen to this guy's quotes, it is a project. They're not going to be spending big money in the transfer window. They want to slowly build up. And I'm sure Vieira's on board for that kind of project. And, the time he had in New York was very similar. So he's accustomed to that type of thing. But I see the Arsenal job as being a lure too big for Vieira. To walk away from a 5-year project, which Nice probably will be before they get into that top level that the owner wants them to get to, maybe 4 or 3 years, but still it's not going to happen overnight. To go to Arsenal, where that same time scale, he would have the potential to put Arsenal back up to where Vieira and Arsenal fans would see as their rightful place in amongst the top 4, the top 3 challenging for titles again. I think Vieira, if he's offered it, will take it, to be honest with you. He wants to win the Premier League, he wants to test himself at the highest level. And yeah. So thanks a lot for tuning into the video today, guys. If you're getting on Arsenal players, good on you. But I would always be looking at being ahead of the crowd, being ahead of the curve. And then this is what you need to ask yourself. Who do I see becoming the manager? And out of those 6 players I've described, you might have an or 2 or 3 that you would put into that bucket, And you might want to buy 5 of him, 6 of him, 11 of him, whatever, and just have them in the background. And then as these things develop, you might then start to lean towards, right, okay, well, it's probably not going to be Ancelotti now, so the Napoli boys will put them, maybe sell them on form, maybe score a goal at the weekend or something. But I think it's going to be Allegri. Do you know what? I might put a bit more money into Regani. Or no, it's not going to be Allegri, it's going to be Vieira. I'm going to put a bit more money into Cyprien, that kind of thing. All of these players that we spoke about, none of them are cup tied for the Europa League, so they're all viable candidates to go into that squad. The other manager, of course, and the reason I'm not mentioning him so far, is Nuno Espirito Santo. Okay, I do not see him leaving Wolves for Arsenal. I really don't. Same as Brendan Rodgers. the thing when you're a coach, especially when you've had careers like Rodgers and Santo have had, having job stability is very valuable. You know, he's under no pressure at Wolves, Rodgers equally at Leicester. You know, there's no rush for them to be moving onwards and upwards. You know, they're not in a, you know, they're very comfortable. The club is completely backing them. Their philosophy, their transfer strategy, their formations, the development they've had in their respective times at the club, and I just don't see them as being candidates really that Arsenal are going to spend any credible time on trying to achieve, you know. But I might be wrong. Stranger things have happened, guys. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble. Get in that comment section, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.